welcome. You're watching the most important and exclusive discussion with one of the leading thinker and leader of Israel, community leading to the international front. We know Mendi Safadi sir leading Israel on many areas when there were crises in whether Asian part of the world or Middle East. He has been in the forefront in terms of resolving a lot of humanitarian conflict. We have this opportunity. Today is a day where Hamas has recently, the ceasefire between Hamas and or Palestine and Israel, which was happening since last 11 days, has come to a close with the intervention and support of the United States. Now, this was a very critical conflict because at a time when the whole world was suffering from pandemic, such a conflict brought a lot of sufferings and threat to the human residing in that belt. Now, we will discuss more with Mr. Safadi. The first question, the Hamas claims victory over the ceasefire that just took place recently. What is your reaction on the ceasefire?
Hamas, they feel that the victory, the only victory they have, it's the money which will get from Iran and Qatar and Turkey. But in the ground, you have see the people suffering. They make people suffering. They make people die for nothing. They make the Gaza Stream back it maybe 100 years back, and I don't think there is one side is win in this war, because nobody win in wars. Even the big wars in the world, always the both side is lose, because they lose people, lose life of people. We don't start this war, and we don't want this war. Hamas bombing the villages and the cities in Israel, the civilian cities. They killed many people from Israel, civilian people, not army people, okay? And always they try to make the terror against Israel, to make the scare of the people, and they never want or never accept that the right of the Jewish people in the Israel land. Because of that, they always go to the terror way. Even we make many steps for peace with the Palestinian people, but Hamas answer us by bombing the buses, bombing the coffee shops, the restaurants, and kill civilian people.
So, since you have told that they are bombing and everything is going on, so I'd like to take you to the history part, that Israelis always believe that the nation would back to the biblical kingdoms since David and Solomon, since 950 BC. It was being felt that this is a Jewish land always, and earning for a return to Zionism that began in 19th century. And that started when the European world was killing all the Israelis or Jewish people. But the Palestinians were the ones which gave them refugee to the people of Israel. And they give all the resources and give all the livelihood support to the Jewish people, because who were being massacred in Europe, as the history says. So they invited them on the land. They gave them all the resources. They gave them support, love. The Palestinian people, in return, what they got, the history says, is that they have been now asking to leave their own land. So how true is that? What is the historical fact, and what is your opinion on that? That taking support from people and then telling them that this is not your home now, you have to just go out from here. So what is your take on this, sir?
Listen, if we want to back to the history, so you can see in the Quran, in the Bible, in the all the regime books, you can see that the Israel land, the God give this land to the Jewish people. Okay, it's not history; it's the truth of God. So there was many occupation in this land and many wars in this land. The Jewish people was the most of them, they was refugees in other countries because the Rome's and the Greece and the other, they moved them out from their country, from their land. The Arab in Israel, they not original Arab, original citizen of the country. The Arab in Israel, they come by the Ottoman Empire. They come to this land to work as a work refugees. Not, they don't original people in the country. So after around 100 years from the time they come to this land, the Israel people come back to their land. They don't choose to make the Palestinian refugees, the Palestinian people refugees. The Arab leaders in this time, in 1948, asked the Arab citizen to leave the country for 2 or 3 weeks until they kill all the Jewish and they send them out of the country. Then they will return back the Arab people to what they call Palestine. Israel win in this war. So all the people which the Arab leaders ask them to go out to Jordan or Syria or Lebanon or Egypt, they can't come back because Israel win in the war. But the people which stay in the country, Israel saved them. Israel saved them and saved their rights in their houses, in their land. And until now, they have all the rights of the Israeli citizen.
So my question is connected to your answer. So how true is that the Israel slowly developed its military powers and then restricted and enforced the Israeli security restrictions on Palestinian movement, the land which was really belonged to them, the history says. So the Jews almost were ever expanding in the West Bank and the Palestinian land. What is your take on that?
Listen, the West Bank, the real name of the West Bank, it's Judah and Samaria. Judah and Samaria. And from where come the name of Judah, of the Jewish people? From Judah. Okay? That means this land is Jewish land. It's not Palestinian land. Judah and Samaria. This land, it was the kingdom of Judah and the kingdom of Samaria. And the Jewish, both of them, they was Jewish. And they lived in this land 1,000 years. Okay? But now the Arab come from the Gulf countries and from Iraq and Iran and other countries, come to work in the Judah and Samaria and in the other Israel land, and they stay there. You know, which as now someone from Delhi go to work in London, and he stayed there for 200-300 years. He and his sons and his sons. So you can't say London, it's Indian country.
It was not an Arab and Muslim majority territory in the Ottoman Empire region, as history says. And as you said, that it was a Jewish land, but no Jews were there. They were first they arrived in 1948 after the massacre in Europe and the Holocaust event. So what do you say on this?
The Jewish people, because the occupation of the Rome and the Greece and the Ottomanic and the other, they far away from the land to Europe, to other countries. So they was refugees in Germany and in United States and in Russia and other countries. Okay, after the Second World War, they start to back to their land because the situation, they have the option to back to the Jewish land, the Israel land, okay, and then ask for independence from the international community, and they have the independence. They give them some of the Israel land, not all the Israel land. What you see now, Israel, it's peace from all the Israel land, because the Israel land is very bigger than that. Even the Jewish people get maybe 20% from the Jewish land. They accept that. But the Arab, even the 20%, they refuse to give them the right to live in this country. Because of that, all the wars between, or the conflict between the Arab and Israel, because the Arab, they don't accept that and accept the right of the Jewish people in this land.
Okay, excellent discussion. I think we had historical perspective of how and why Israel is, fighting for land. Couple of questions I'll club together because we are short of time. Number one, why? See, in long run, we all are dead. Means, if we keep on hunting for land, today Britain can come and they can say half of the world were my colony, and I own the land that belongs to now to India, to Bangladesh, to all the countries. So will it be fair for Britain to claim that? So is Russia was controlling huge part of the land. Sometimes Japan used to control China. Now China is controlling a lot part of the land. Now China is claiming Myanmar or Hong Kong or Taiwan are their lands. So this fight never ends. United Nations has come up with this a resolution, a solution. Do you accept the United Nations version? Why don't you accept the United Nations version? That is number one. The second thing is, this has become more of the conflict has become primarily, as the international observers and people feel, it has become a contention for election. So whenever there is election either in Israel or Palestine, or whenever the anti-Israeli government wins election in Palestine, then it becomes the conflict becomes vibrant. It starts occurring from both sides. Or whenever there is an election, this time as we see, when there were 4 elections and Israel was not able to identify a true leader with majority to lead, then they aggressively started this conflict. This is the second question. Why do you do so? And why do you actually start conflict in this, this thing? The third important question that people ask is that the whole world, the people of the whole world have sympathy with Palestine today. But the handful of political leaders will have or have support of Israel. So Israel is fighting this conflict with some handful support of political leaders, but the whole of humanity or people will have sympathy with the Palestine. So your reaction to all these questions?
Okay, let's start with the United Nations. The first agreement between Israel and the United Nations, it was 1920. They give Israel today and Jordan. After that, because the conflict between the King Faisal and the King Abdulaziz, the king of Jordan, they give them the Jordan country. So we lose more land. And now we can't lose more land. We don't have a big land that we can share it with other. We have the small land in Israel. It's not enough for the people which live in Israel. So we can't share this land with other, okay? The Jewish people have only one country, and the Arab people have 21 countries, okay? This one, the first one. The second one, about the election. The election of Israel, it's inside situation. The conflict between the right and the left political sides. Okay, the people of Israel vote for both of them. They have 50-50. Okay, this 50 want right government, and this 50 want left government. Because of that, I think now in few weeks it will fix it at all. The Palestinian election, let's back to around 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago, when Ehud Olmert and Tzipi Livni give Hamas the right to involve in the election, to share with the election. Hamas in Gaza, yeah? Hamas win in Gaza. So what they do, they kill all the Palestinian Fatah leader, and they send them out of Gaza. And they control in the country. And from this day, every day, we have terror attacks from Gaza. Because of that, we don't agree to give them in Judah and Samaria to involve in the election. It's also Abu Mazen don't want, but he can't say that. He asked us to do that for him, to refuse Hamas from the election of the Palestinian. The third question, it's about the you say all the world stand with Hamas. If you see the camera, take zoom to 100 people in London, 100 people in Paris, 100 people in United States, 100 people in India. It's not all the world. It's what you see, what the media want you to see, okay? When you see Al Jazeera, it's not TV channel. It's campaigner for the Islamic Brother. It's campaigner for the terror. There was campaigner of ISIS in Syria. There was campaigner of Al-Qaeda. There was campaigner of Jabhat al-Nusra. And there are campaigner of Iran and Qatar and Hamas. So what you see in the media, it's not the reality. It's short shot, which the camera do. So now I can make a picture of 10 people with the flag of Israel and the flag of any country. So that you can say all the world stand with Israel? No. Hundreds of people every day. I meet many people every day. And I know that, let's say all the Arab countries, 80% from the Arab countries against Hamas. Okay? I feel also solidarity for the people of Gaza, not for the Hamas organization. Because they're suffering because of Hamas. The people in Gaza, they want peace with Israel. They want to work in Israel. They was work in Israel before the occupation of Hamas of this piece of land. So the people in Gaza, it's not my enemy. My enemy, it's the terrorists in Gaza.
Sir, how come is it possible the people who are giving refugee to a particular community who has been massacred around the world, they are giving them refugee and then they will be massacring them and killing them? My question is, since 1967, this conflict has got worsened. Thousands of men, women from both sides and children have been died. Uh, Today, since last day, 11 days, almost more than 250 people have died from Palestinian side, official record, and 12 to 15 from Israeli side, which is really bad. The Quran says,
Right.
if you are killing one man, you're killing the whole of humanity. So it is really
Exactly.
bad to listen to that and no to that figures.
Exactly.
But today, the Israeli government and the military forces has attacked the hospitals also, has attacked the people's home also. How right, how correct is this? Also on the part of the
I
Hamas, if
want
they are doing so on the people of Israel, it's wrong. But but what is the solution, sir? What solution as a diplomat, as an international diplomat, policy maker, you can suggest?
I want you to back, you and all the people which watching us. I want you to back to the buildings which bombed in Gaza, not outside Gaza. You see that the first fire come from up to down, and then the fire which start from down to up, it's the muscles which Hamas save in the ground of the buildings. Okay, Hamas shoot from the buildings of the civilian buildings. Hamas put his muscles in the civilian buildings. So we have to bomb it. We can't have the solution. But Israel don't bomb it directly. Israel make the small bomb which don't make any damage. The small bomb in the roof of the building, then the people have 15 minutes to leave the building. We have the pictures, the videos. You can watch it. Hamas shoot from the muscles from the hospital.
Sir, when we say this, we have a very strong proof that the Senator Mr. Bernie Sanders of US or UK or US, he has said this in the parliament, sir, that the Israeli forces have destroyed all the hospitals and the homes. This has been said on record in the parliament by Mr. Bernie Sanders.
Listen, Sanders is not the guy which you can take from him sample. Okay, I don't want to talk about Sanders, which person he is. So for me, Sanders is not the right documenter. Okay.
Okay. Right. Let me ask a couple of questions, sir. Now, number one, a lot of points you've said are actually contrary, which my co-panelist has already said. Number one point that I want to say is, the worst situation is that, you are controlling the whole land. These people who are inside, the Palestinians, they don't have the proper access to the resources. You control all the resources they get. If any country in the world, they want to provide any humanitarian assistance to the people, they have to take the approval of Israel before they reach and give to the people. The second thing is, Jews, Christians, and Muslims are cousins coming from same family, big
Right.
triangle. And which is then, this is very obvious. Then whatever the land you got, do you think it is worth continuing the fight? Because you are extremely literate, you are producing less children now, you have a lot of money, but you need to also sustain your population. If you continue war like this, one day or the other, things will come to an end, and this can damage Israel more than many people that will be killed from the Palestinian side. That is second. Third is, the whole media of the world is controlled by Jews. You talk about Facebook, which big company that exists on the earth, which does not have the ownership and leadership of Israelis. So the point is, and the last point that I want to say, God is always with those who are the sufferers. Now, the rich, God is never with the rich. God is always with the poor, the sufferer, the victim. Now, we also need to sometimes find solutions which are always in favor of the poor or the sufferer. So, do you agree on all the points, sir?
Okay. About the first question, you don't right. Because they have the border, Rafah border, is between Gaza and Egypt. Okay? It's not our problem that Egypt don't give them to entry from there or don't give them the humanitarian aid. 3 days ago, Israel sent 200 trucks with humanitarian aid to Gaza. Even we was in the war. We sent 200 trucks to humanitarian aid. What Hamas do? They bomb these trucks. Hamas bomb the humanitarian aid, which go from Israel to the people in Gaza. So don't say that we don't give them all the electric from Israel, and they don't pay for that. All the electric to Gaza, it's from Israel. Every week, Israel send humanitarian aid to Gaza. Israel don't block the borders with Gaza. You know how many people, even the sister of Ismail Haniya, she entered to Israel to the hospital, and they have the health care in Israel by free. And many people from Gaza, they enter to Israel for medicine, to the hospital every day. We don't stop that. Okay. You say Israel is the rich and Gaza is the poor. It's not right. It's not right. You know how much money entry to Gaza every month? More than Israel have. But this money don't go to the people. It's go to Hamas. Hamas build weapons, missiles. They don't build factories. They don't build streets or hospitals or anything which can help the civilian. No, nothing. They leave the civilian poor, because when your civilian is poor, they go after you everywhere you want. You can't control the poor people. You can't control the rich people. Because of that, Hamas saved the Palestinian people poor to control them. I can give you all the documents that you need about the humanitarian aid which Israel moved to Gaza. But they don't give it to the people. They sell it to the people. Hamas sell the humanitarian aid to the people of Gaza. So what we can do? If their leaders make them suffering, we can do nothing. One thing you have to know, Israel don't start the war. Israel don't want the war. Hamas started. And Hamas bombing our cities. And we asked them by the Egyptian government to stop that for more than 1 week. We sent to the Egyptian government, ask them to stop that. Ask them to stop that. Because if they don't stop, we must save our people, save our security. So only after more than 1 week, then Israel shoot back. We use maybe 5% from our power. We use all our power. Israel don't use all the power what she have. Only 5% from the power of the army of Israel.
No, sir, the counterpoint I can also say that all the power Israel has is $50 billion defense military aid it gets from America. If the international aid stops, Israel is nothing other than Palestine.
And
It's not,
also,
it's
sir,
not.
one thing to add to my colleague's question. Yes, sir. If we see the historical map since 1947, the land acquisition of Israel has gone from 10% to almost 95%. So, who the acquisition holder is right now with military forces? Okay, Palestinians might be having some issues, they might be also on some wrong path, but the majority, the world which is witnessing, is that Israel is unnecessary targeting the Palestinians and the people who have given them refuge, have given them support when they needed it the most. Otherwise, the Jewish community would have wiped out of the world. The history says that. So when we see all these maps, Israel has taken over the land acquisition. If suppose someone enters your house, my house, how come I should entertain him? If I'm giving him bread and butter, and if he's telling me the next day morning that now you have to get out of my house, how is this possible? Is this the humanitarian justice we are standing for? Israel stands for? Palestinian or Hamas might be also wrong. But what do you have to say on this?
Israel don't take from anyone, no house and no land. Israel, there is Jewish businessmen which buy the lands from Palestinian, from Arab. The most of the land they sold by Arab leaders, Palestinian leaders, sell to Jewish. And after that, they say we take their land. Okay.
Right.
There is two parts of Arab in Israel. One part is live inside Israel, and they have all the rights as any Jewish. And there are other part which live in the Palestinian Authority and Gaza. In the Palestinian Authority, they have autonomy. They have autonomy. They have government. They have everything they need. We don't involve with their life. Some of them, like 100,000 Palestinian, is working in Israel. Is working the factories in Israel factories. Okay, the salary which Israel give, it's $1,500 monthly. The salary which the Palestinian Authority give to the people, it's $250.
Thank you so much, sir. We were talking to Mr. Mendi Safadi, one of Israel's prominent businessman and international humanist who is working across the world. And we candidly discussed many very crucial and tough questions, which Mr. Safadi has answered very politely, very humbly. We will bring experts from different parts of the world to talk on various aspects of the world politics and world peace. Thank you. Keep watching the Policy Times.